Okay, we are in the heat of things. We still have news coming out. We had Julio Jones to Tampa yesterday. Now today we have news of Rhamondre Stevenson running with the ones over Damian Harris. Now, we're going to dive into a couple different news points, and we are going to get a real money fantasy football draft underway so you can see exactly where these players are now going in fantasy drafts. And what's going to be beautiful is the fact that we drop a like on this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and more importantly, hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you're able to come out here as soon as we go live. But thank you for everybody who is out here currently. Y'all know I appreciate you all. And here we have Scissors back in this draft with us. This time at 1. Let's see him. I'm assuming go Jonathan Taylor, if I'm remembering correctly. Did Scissors go with CMC or Cooper Kupp in the last draft? I know he was either picking at 2 or 3. Let's see where he decides to go pick 1 this time. We have Jonathan Taylor, CMC, Cooper Kupp off the board with the first 3 picks. Very standard. First 4 picks in pretty much every single fantasy football draft are going to look relatively close to this. I mean, it should be a close combination of Taylor, CMC, Kupp, and Jefferson. It really does come down to how you're going to value those running backs versus wide receivers. Chase goes at 5. I think that's exactly how it should be as well. At 6, this is where the draft starts. This is where you're probably going to see drafters decide to go Austin Eckler, then Derrick Henry. I've already told you my opinion on why we're going Stefon Diggs here instead. Now, we are drafting with Cheeky Opson. We're drafting with C. Wagner. We're drafting with Kickers Lives Matter, WC99. We're drafting with so many people, a part of the flock here, that don't be surprised when you see Stefon Diggs go at pick 6. So now we're going to be taking a running back that is my running back 3 in fantasy, but I honestly don't draft them that much because I usually do take Chase. I usually do take Stefon Diggs over him. We're going to go ahead, take Austin Eckler here. I do want to be on record saying that I think in casual fantasy football drafts, Eckler may be a little bit overvalued this upcoming season, given the fact that you're looking at him coming off a year where he scored 20 touchdowns. And that's never been the case before. I mean, yes, I understand different coaching staff. Maybe you make the argument, oh, it's just the fact that he finally has the red zone role. But in 2023 touchdowns. Now, I'm not saying he's going to score 3 touchdowns again, but I promise you it's going to be somewhere in between that. I would imagine you get Eckler close to 10, 11, maybe even 12 total touchdowns this upcoming season. But I do think you are going to see some regression with Austin Eckler in that category, which is why I'm not going to have him close to Jonathan Taylor or CMC at 1 or 2. Now, after we take Eckler, you have Derrick Henry at 8, Najee Harris at 9, Dalvin, Kelsey, Adams, Mixon. Very standard start. I would say the only thing that looks weird for probably people watching this draft right now is going to be Stefon Diggs at 6. But we also need to keep in mind that on Underdog Fantasy, these wide receivers usually get pushed up. It's best ball, of course, and you have to start 3 wide receivers on a week-to-week basis. So don't be surprised when you see these wide receivers slide up draft boards. And I'm sure that everybody knows this by now. Everybody watching this live stream, everybody watching this video is already having fun drafting with us on Underdog Fantasy. But for the 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 people watching this live stream, watching this video, that I don't know what you do with your free time, are not having fun. I'll tell you that. Go draft on Underdog Fantasy. I promise you, you're going to have so much fun. I've done over 400 of these drafts this offseason, and I'm addicted. I don't know what I'm going to do once we get to, I believe, September 10th, the season kicks off. And when you go and draft on Underdog Fantasy and make a new account, if you use promo code FLOCK with the link in the description, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. So you're getting paid to play fantasy football, and you are getting our 2022 fantasy football draft guide and rankings when you use promo code FLOCK and make just a $10 deposit. You got to take advantage of it. I promise you, you're going to have so much fun. That's why we do this every single night. And of course, you can draft with us on the live stream as everybody else here is doing. But we're going to go ahead. We are going to take Aaron Jones at pick 18. With Aaron Jones, I think that he is a fantastic value in drafts this year. This is a running back that you're looking at a massive role in games where Davante Adams misses. Now, let me go ahead and pull up our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. This is the easiest thing to do whenever you're in a draft, is just pull up our draft guide. It's in a PDF for you, and so damn easy to just go ahead, hit Control F, search a player's name, and then have every irrelevant statistic that you would ever want for that player, every reason why you should draft them, every reason why you shouldn't draft them. We have listed out. That way I can try to avoid my biases and I can try to be very fair with our evaluation. And if I search Aaron Jones here, you'll see that Aaron Jones in games where Davante Adams has not played over the past 4 years since 2018 has averaged 6.7 targets per game, has averaged 55 receiving yards per game. That is a jump from 3.7 to 6.7. 3 additional targets a game, 35 additional receiving yards a game, and 0.4 additional receiving touchdowns per game. Aaron Jones is going to have possibly his largest year as a receiver throughout his entire NFL career this season in Green Bay. Even if A.J. Dillon does take a step forward, which you can imagine he will, there's still going to be so much volume to go around in a hyper-efficient offense that Aaron Jones at pick 18 is a complete smash, in my opinion. Starting our draft off with 2 great pass-catching running backs in elite-level offenses. But now we are definitely going to be looking for our wide receiver. Of course, there's a tight end that y'all know I'll be excited about drafting if he makes it to us. Now, let's pull this down. Kickers' lives matter on the clock. Someone who's been in a million drafts with us. He decides to go A.J. Brown. I ended up taking A.J. Brown in my $500 draft at the 304 as well. I think A.J. Brown is a fine value at that pick. Yeah. So let's go through and check the chat. We have a ton of people out here. Thank you so much for everybody in this chat. William says 2 stud running backs. Now, Josh Allen goes 30. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Kyle Pitts. Yes, it's a little nerve-wracking deciding to pass on wide receiver yet again, but Kyle Pitts is a tight end that truly does have an elite level season ahead of him. I promise you, Kyle Pitts can break fantasy football. I thought you were going to look at a tight end that has the largest wingspan in the NFL. So we should assume that, hell, yeah, he's going to be a red zone weapon. And at the same time, he averaged 1.5. Let me repeat myself. 1.5 receiving touchdowns per game his final season at Florida. He's going to be a fantastic red zone weapon, but you're getting a discount because his rookie year, he had a touchdown rate of 0.09%. He scored 1 touchdown the entire season. We know touchdowns are the most volatile statistic in fantasy football. That is not something that you should expect to happen going forward. Kyle Pitts will be a touchdown scoring machine. I think that you're going to be getting a discount on him right now, and I'm going to be very happy to take that discount with Kyle Pitts, of course. Now, let's go ahead. Close out a couple of these tabs because I think we have the live stream lagging, which is a bad thing. Kamara goes to pick 34. Obviously, if Alvin Kamara doesn't miss any time, Alvin Kamara pick 34 is going to be the best pick in this fantasy football draft. If I was going to be drafting in a tournament-style draft, I would definitely be taking Alvin Kamara here. I think in a regular 12-team league where points in week 1 matter just as much as points in week 17 when there is no playoff setting, I think there I probably lean on passing on Kamara at 31 as we did. But if it's a tournament style draft, I can't argue for anybody to take Alvin Kamara pick 31, assuming he does serve a 6-game suspension. If he's back weeks 15, 16, 17, he could be the running back 1 overall. Okay. Jerry says Godwin and Thomas new ADP. I'm assuming you're saying that they are going to be skyrocketing up ADP relatively soon. And my man, I'm hoping that happens. Let me grab my phone and let me tell you who my most drafted wide receivers are this upcoming season in fantasy. Now, I just want to flex on everyone here. I'm sorry. I want to flex on y'all because we've been talking about Michael Thomas for so damn long, and people have been calling me a clown on Michael Thomas. My most drafted receivers in fantasy this year, Michael Thomas, Jalen Waddle, Stefon Diggs, Will Fuller, Diontae Johnson. So Michael Thomas is sitting there at 1. If I'm looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receivers, I have 12% Chris Godwin, I have 3% Russell Gage, and I have 6% Mike Evans. And that 6% Mike Evans is for me drafting Mike Evans a lot at the end of the second round over the past 2 days after the Julio Jones signing. So the past few days, the news we have gotten has 100% helped me out. And now where we don't have a wide receiver, we're going to have to go ahead. We're going to have to take someone that I'm very excited about. Looks like Diontae Johnson's not participating in team drills. I don't give a damn. We are drafting Diontae Johnson in the middle of the 4th round as a wide receiver on his rookie contract that is a target hog, 10.5 targets a game last year. And we've already talked about how damn bad Ben Roethlisberger was. We need a wide receiver. I think Diontae Johnson, pick 42, is going to be completely fine. Now, if we go back and try to reevaluate some of our selections, would you rather have the combination of Aaron Jones and Diontae Johnson? Or would you rather have Ezekiel Elliott and Deebo Samuel? Please let me know, because I think that is something that I can be fair and say. I think I can be fair and say maybe just for this one. Let's say if we get, we'll call it, we have 300 people watching this live stream right now. If we get 200 likes in the live stream, we're only in round 4. We're almost there. We'll fire up another draft after this one. And yeah, it looks like a lot of people in the chat. William says Jones and Johnson. Hartnell says Jones and Diontae. Nick says Jones and DJ. So yes, I think that we probably made the right call to go ahead and to draft Diontae Johnson and Aaron Jones. Looks like we have a little bit of a lag. Let me refresh this so we should be good to go. I apologize. No idea why this is doing it. Okay. So we have a run on non-wide receivers. After this, we have about 6 picks in a row where we only have 1 wide receiver off the board, and that is Jerry Jeudy. Probably pretty good for us whenever we're looking at a team that has only 1 wide receiver through the first 4 rounds, considering the format that we are playing in. Now, Eric asking us, should we be looking at Kyle Rudolph as a late sleeper? Obviously, Kyle Rudolph stepping into a pretty good situation if you were looking at the fact that he's going to be in the #1 offense in the NFL when it comes to passing rate over expectation and a top 5 team in the NFL and pace of play as well. Rob Gronkowski obviously gone. Cameron Brate obviously bad. However, with all that going for him, no, you cannot draft Kyle Rudolph. Like, let's be realistic here. Let me pull up some Kyle Rudolph stats and let you know how bad it would be, in my opinion, of course, in my humble opinion, to decide to go and draft Kyle Rudolph, even if he's in a great situation, and even if you think that he is a more talented player than Cameron Brate, who probably isn't very good. Kyle Rudolph is going into his age 32 season. The last time that Kyle Rudolph had 400 games in a year was 2018. I'm sorry, 400 yards in a season. Of course, 400 games in a year. That would be extremely impressive. The last time he had 400 yards in a season was 2018. He's had like 3 or 4 seasons total. He's going into his age 34 year. I'm sorry. I can't draft Kyle Rudolph in fantasy. Now, what I can do is I can go ahead, take some DK Metcalf value. Obviously, Metcalf is in a very bad situation this upcoming season. You're looking at his quarterback potentially being Drew Lock. If it's not Drew Lock, it's Geno Smith. I don't know if that's that much better. However, it's baked into his price. The situation's baked into his price. If DK Metcalf still had Russell Wilson, where was DK Metcalf being drafted last year? DK Metcalf was being drafted at the beginning of the 2nd round. He increased his target share to 26% this past season. Let me pull up DK Metcalf's chapter in our draft guide, which of course you can get by going and drafting on Underdog Fantasy using promo code FLOCK. But if we look at DK Metcalf, his rookie season, 20% team target share. 2nd year, 23%. 3rd year, 26% of his team's target share. Taking him at pick 55, it's going to be strong value in my opinion. And of course, it does not hurt that we need a wide receiver and DK Metcalf is on the thumbnail of this live stream. So I think it's a sign. It's a sign. Primer says, Jimmy Garoppolo to the Seahawks, please. I don't know how likely that would be, considering the fact that they go out of their way and they decided to sign Marcus Mariota this offseason. I'd say if they did not sign Mariota and they only drafted Desmond Ridder, oh, hell yeah. You're going to go through and you're going to be pumped for Jimmy Garoppolo to the Seahawks. And I wouldn't mind it at all. I've drafted a lot of Kyle Pitts this season. And if Jimmy Garoppolo, unlikely to land Jimmy Garoppolo, they're probably just going to be punting this upcoming season, hoping that that division gets a little bit easier and you have Tom Brady gone next year in 2023. They bring in someone like CJ Stroud. They decide to bring in, say, a Bryce Young, and then they really compete for the division next year. I don't really see exactly what trading for Jimmy Garoppolo does when they have no shot whatsoever. Now, if we have Jimmy G to the Seahawks, however, that would be beautiful. The one issue with Jimmy Garoppolo to the Seahawks, obviously, they're in the same division. If the 49ers were not, I would be so pumped at the possibility of Jimmy Garoppolo going over to Seattle. But it is what it is. We're still going to be taking Metcalf, and we're still going to hope that... I don't even know what we're hoping for. Maybe he can provide us a couple big random plays. But Dalton Schultz goes at pick 64. Mikey's Lattery on the clock at 65. Okay. I know who I'm hoping for. If he doesn't fall to us, it'll be fine. We can make a pivot. So far, we have Eckler, Aaron Jones at running back. We have Diontae Johnson, DK Metcalf at wide receiver. We have Kyle Pitts at tight end. So we are going to go ahead. We're going to draft Elijah Mitchell here. Now, Elijah Mitchell's a running back that I wasn't taking very often at the beginning of the offseason, but at the beginning of the offseason, he was going in round 5. Since then, we have seen Tyrion Davis-Price move up fantasy draft boards and Elijah Moore move down. I found myself drafting more and more Elijah Moore as the offseasons progressed because I think this is a very fair price point. As I've said, this is a running back that his rookie season, 100 total yards a game. Now, I've said this stat over and over and over again, so I'll be very brief with it. But if I'm going to be fair, they churn through these running backs in San Francisco. They truly do. You're looking at Kyle Shanahan's history of his lead running back in 2017, Carlos Hyde, 2018, Matt Breida, 2019, Tevin Coleman, 2020, Jeff Wilson, 2021, Elijah Mitchell. Nobody has repeated since 2017 as Kyle Shanahan's lead running back. Now, with that being said, this should be one of the most run-heavy offenses in the entire NFL. And Elijah Mitchell was good last year. That has to mean something. Brock coming out says, hey, buddy, new to the stream. Thank you, my man, for coming out to the live stream. Hopefully, you are enjoying it. Hopefully, you've been able to go and hop in one of these drafts with us. If not, don't worry. You'll have a shot to relatively soon. We do these drafts every single night and are probably going to hop in another draft after this one, assuming that we hit 200 likes on the stream. But now we have Elijah Moore going to pick 71, Drake London pick 70. I guess we still need wide receiver help. I mean, we have a couple 2019 guys with Diontae Johnson and Metcalf here. But it's not like we can lock Diontae Johnson and DK Metcalf to be wide receiver ones this upcoming season. Now, see what Scissors has done at this point of the draft. Through the first 6 rounds, he goes Michael Thomas, pick 72. Love the Michael Thomas call. Obviously, we had reports, we had videos coming out of Saints camp with Michael Thomas running routes, catching balls from Jameis Winston. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Now, it would help me a lot if we end up getting movement with Michael Thomas's ADP up draft boards. And I honestly may not even have to draft him that much more if he's going to be more expensive than he was when we were drafting him earlier this month. But I'll said it once, I'll say it again. One of the craziest things I've ever seen in fantasy football is the fact that Allen Lazard has an ADP right now higher than Michael Thomas. Yes, let me repeat myself. Allen Lazard on Underdog Fantasy has an ADP higher than Michael Thomas. That is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. Now, Russian says, can I join a mock if already on Underdog? Yeah, if you're already on Underdog, yeah, you can still join on the live stream. Of course, it supports our channel much, much more if you join Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK. But if you're already drafting on Underdog Fantasy and you want to hop in one of these drafts with us, I know pretty much everybody on the face of this earth is already on Underdog, whether they use promo code FLOCK or not. You can still get in. But you're not going to be able to get our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide or the deposit match, of course, if you do not use FLOCK. Now, let's sit here, think through this. I'm not too interested in taking Wilson. We don't have any Denver players. We could get Albert O at a value later on. We could get Patrick. We could get a couple different names. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Christian Kirk. I think with Kirk, it's a thin pick. We definitely need to be going forward and drafting more wide receivers. Wilson in this range isn't going to be too appealing for me unless I have Jerry Jeudy. Now, of course, I can't say Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton because you will never catch me drafting Sutton. We need a wide receiver. I think the guys that are going to be available to us at pick 90 are going to be pretty damn gross. I think we can still find some solid running back value a little bit later on. Let me know who you would have gone with at pick 79. It's a tough spot. I'm not too confident with our pick, but I would be interested in your thoughts. And we have Figurine Champ says, did you take Patrick Mahomes already? Yeah, Patrick Mahomes has officially now been moved up as my most drafted quarterback on Underdog Fantasy when he's going mid-round 5. Sadly, I did not get Mahomes in this draft. He goes pick 53, so instead we grab DK Metcalf in the middle of the 5th. But a lot of these drafts that I do off the live stream, I am getting Patrick Mahomes at pick 55, which, of course, in my opinion, is very exciting. Bryce says, every draft on Underdog costs money. Question mark. Yes, every draft on Underdog Fantasy is a real money fantasy football draft. That is why, in my opinion, Underdog Fantasy is the best practice if you want to mock draft and go deposit $10, use promo code FLOCK. Essentially view it as you paying $10 to get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide, because they'll throw an additional $10 into your account. So it's essentially free, and you can fire up 6 $3 drafts, and it's essentially your mock drafting. But the difference is it's not like a regular mock draft where people leave halfway through. People are going to stick to the very end, and people are really going to care about every single one of their picks because there is money on the line, of course. Okay. Sai says, Mason, who's the most overdrafted player in fantasy this year? In my opinion, it's Gabriel Davis. Now, the price point on Gabriel Davis here, where he goes at pick 54, I get it. He falls 10 picks past his ADP. That's fine. Can't make fun of anybody for deciding to take Gabriel Davis pick 54 when they take Josh Allen at pick 30. But in these drafts, Gabriel Davis goes at the beginning of the 4th to the middle of the 4th round very often. You have Gabriel Davis going before Diontae Johnson in some drafts. I can't get behind it. I understand the thesis. If he can maintain his efficiency and pick up that Emmanuel Sanders volume, then yeah, he has a very high ceiling in this offense. But still, it seems pretty damn thin to me. We are going to go ahead. We're going to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire, one of my most drafted 8th round running backs. I was not taking CEH very often when he was going at the beginning of the 7th round, but I've just been slowly but surely increasing my exposure on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I will 100% admit that CEH is most likely a bad running back. Yes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is most likely not a good running back, if I have to be honest, but it may not matter. He's playing with Mahomes. He's playing in Kansas City. He has dealt with a laundry list of injuries through the first 2 years of his NFL career. Obviously, he had the surgery last offseason that had him lose 15 pounds before the season started. And at 5'8", 15 pounds in your frame is a ton. I think you can make excuses for Clyde Edwards-Helaire and why he has maybe failed over the past 2 seasons. I think if we reflect on where he was going as a rookie, where he was going as the second-year player, it was horrendous. It was a very bad price point. But in the middle of the 8th round, to get the most likely starting running back for the Kansas City Chiefs that should have a small role in the receiving game, that's a very fair price to pay. And there's, of course, the outside chance that if we draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire at pick 90 here, and we were saying, you know what? He's probably a bad running back, but he's in a great situation. What if he's actually a good running back and it was the injuries? What if? I know it's a big what if. I know it's probably not the case. But what if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is actually good? Clyde Edwards-Helaire is what, 23 years old? Let's pull this up. Clyde Edwards-Helaire age, I think 23. Yeah. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to play this entire season at 23. He just turned 23 in April. He was born in 1999. Man's younger than I am. By a decent margin as well. So I'm looking at CH. And his ADP about 10 picks behind Tony Pollard. Is one of the better values of the running back position this year. Okay, we have Devin Singletary off the board, 100. Kenneth Walker, 99. Honestly, probably a pretty good thing for us to see these running backs off. We need some wide receivers making them back to us. Maybe this is a Lockett team where we go ahead, we pair together Metcalf and Lockett and really hope that there is that outside chance that we get Jimmy Garoppolo over to Seattle. But nope, Lockett goes right before us. cheeky option on the clock. You have both Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers as best players available. To be completely honest, I would go with one. Let's be quiet here. Let's be quiet. See where cheeky option decides to take this. He has 3 wide receivers, 2 quarterbacks. He took Lance whenever he had already gone all in. Okay, so he takes Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre was going to be my pick. Obviously, we had the great report coming out where you have Ramondre Stevenson running ahead of Damian Harris. I will go ahead. I'll take Marquez Valdez-Scantling about 12 picks after his ADP here at the 907. And I am usually taking Marquez Valdez-Scantling in the 9th if he falls, but on a Patrick Mahomes build, I'm completely fine to take him at this value, especially in a best ball format where he could randomly spike and go into our starting lineup. I'm expecting him to be the field stretching option in Kansas City this upcoming season, which obviously if you're playing with a very efficient deep ball quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, hell, that's a role that has weekly upside. Now, Harner coming out says, thoughts on Amari Cooper and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'll pull up these chapters in our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Let me give you the positives with Amari Cooper first. The positives with Amari Cooper are this is a wide receiver that is being drafted lower than you've pretty much ever seen him. Remember, as a rookie, Amari Cooper was one of the best collegiate prospects ever coming out at the wide receiver position. Coming out of Alabama, Amari Cooper was a draft day darling. He's now being drafted as a wide receiver 3 in fantasy, the cheapest he's ever been. And if you're looking at Amari Cooper, he could potentially have the best quarterback play of his entire NFL career this year if Deshaun Watson does not miss the entire season. If Watson, say, only misses 6 games, which I have no idea what the hell is going to happen, but we're playing the what if scenario. Deshaun Watson has a career 8.6 adjusted yards per pass attempt. Derek Carr was at 7.1. Dak Prescott at 7.9. So Amari Cooper may have the fewest amount of wide receivers competing for targets with him of his entire NFL career. At the same time, he may have the best quarterback play of his entire NFL career. And this is the cheapest he's ever gone in fantasy drafts. Now, at the same time, you do have concerns with Amari Cooper. It is not a great sign for the Dallas Cowboys to essentially dump him for nothing just to get his contract off the books. Yes, they pick up a day 3 draft pick, but it was essentially them just cutting Amari Cooper. And you've seen his yards per route run fall from 2.4 to 2 to 1.8 over the past 3 years. And with the Amon-Ra St. Brown, he had, of course, that massive breakout this past season. But if we're going to be fair, you had no DeAndre Swift. You had no TJ Hawkinson at the very end of the year. But you did have a 12, 11, 11, 11, 10 targets through the last 6 weeks of his rookie season. And he was an early declare coming out of USC. A lot of positives on the profile. Now, let's pull this up. Derek Carr now being drafted before Aaron Rodgers. Honestly, did not know that. Where do we want to go here? Do we take one of these quarterbacks? Obviously, we don't have any of the stacks with them. We could go Rodgers and get... Yeah, we're going to go Rodgers. We're going to take Rodgers over Carr. One of the main reasons is because we have Aaron Jones. So, of course, we can go ahead. We can stack Aaron Rodgers with Aaron Jones. I think you can find the majority of Aaron Jones' value this upcoming season coming from his role in the receiving game. So I do think that they correlate well together. And at the same time, we can still get a Robert Tonyan later on. We could still get Christian Watson. Actually, no, Christian Watson off the board. I saw Christian Watson. I swear this happened. So sadly, I had to miss out on this insane Christian Watson value. But let's find this Best Ball Mania draft. It was like every person that was on the clock, I was like, okay, Christian Watson's off here. Okay, no, Christian Watson's off here. And then it just happened over and over and over again. I believe it was the second to last Best Ball Mania draft I did today. Okay. This was a team that I just went very wide receiver heavy early on, so I couldn't continue to grab value late. But you had Christian Watson. It was not this draft. God, what draft was it? I guess it was the third to last draft we did today. Let me scroll this up. I apologize for that, everyone. I have to let you know where I saw Christian Watson fall because obviously we had the report that Christian Watson's going to miss some time here. So I do think Christian Watson is going to be falling in these drafts compared to where you've seen him previously be drafted. And I've been excited to draft Christian Watson as well. Now, this is way too low for Christian Watson to fall. He fell to pick 163 in one of these underdog drafts I did today. Now, my wide receiver core was Jamar Chase, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Diontae Johnson, Allen Robinson, Russell Gage, Tyler Boyd. So I had a very hard time taking another wide receiver. I really couldn't. But it was crazy seeing him fall that far. Now, Alexander Madison, 125. Let's pull this up. Cousins, best player on the board by about 13 picks. Hard to take Cousins here because Irv Smith Jr. is already gone. At the same time, obviously, we can't get Jefferson. We can't get Adam Thielen. Can't get Dalvin. Can't get Alexander Madison. Our last hope would be KJ Osborne. But if we're looking at other players in this range, you know what? I guess Rachaad White is appealing. We'll see what Chigi Opson decides to do. He decides to pass. I think we can go ahead. We can take Rachaad White here as a running back that will have a role as a pass catcher on a week-to-week basis. And then obviously, Rachaad White will have upside for more if something were to occur to Leonard Fournette. And of course, I'm not moving down Leonard Fournette too much based on the fact that he has some weight issues that maybe we need to be concerned about. But still, if we're using it as a tiebreaker, I think we're fine to take Rachaad White just as a player that will have a weekly role in one of the best offenses in the NFL. And as we said, the contingency value if you were to have a Leonard Fournette injury. Brock says, will Godwin play week 1 or is it still unknown? It's going to be unknown for a very long time. Like any report that you get right now, please don't take it as just a straight up fact. If someone says, oh, J.K. Dobbins isn't going to play week 1, don't take it as a fact that Dobbins is 100% out. Same thing with Chris Godwin. As I've always said, I think that the people who were guaranteeing that Godwin was going to be placed on the PUP to start the season, the people that were saying Chris Godwin could potentially miss 8-10 weeks, they are crazy. They're acting like this is 1990 with these injuries. That's not going to happen. What I've always expected is Godwin to miss about 1 to 3 weeks. I still stand by that. I still stand by the fact that I think Chris Godwin is a great pick at his current price point. It's just going to be up to you. Stefon coming out says Godwin will play week 7 or week 8. Book it. My man, I think you're crazy. I think we get Godwin back probably about week 3, week 4 latest. At least I'm hoping. I'm very biased. And then I've drafted more Chris Godwin than any other Tampa Bay Buccaneer wide receiver so far this offseason. Okay, what report came out with Jacoby Myers today participating? Okay, we don't need to read that. It's just complete trash. Now, Luke decides to go with Jacoby Myers. Now, if we're looking at wide receivers that are going to be appealing to us here, I'm not going to be too excited to take Jamison Williams. If this was going to be a league where we really needed to prioritize weeks 15, 16, and 17 production, then sure, we can definitely go ahead and we can look at Jamison Williams. But as I've said, this is going to be that private 12-team draft, so it's just who can score the most points throughout the entire season. And in that light, I don't like the idea of taking Jamison Williams, who can miss the first month of the year, and also, of course, is that rookie. I'd rather take a couple other rookies that I think can provide his production right away, with either Jahan Dotson or Jalen Tolbert. I guess you could make the argument to go with Trevor Lawrence as well when we decided to take Christian Kirk a little bit early. But you know what? We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Jahan Dotson. I think Dotson, we're getting a decent value on, a hyper-productive player out of Penn State. His final 2 seasons there, Jahan Dotson was fantastic. And if you were looking at the target tree in Washington, of course you should expect Terry McLaurin to be the wide receiver 1 and for it to not be that close. But Dotson has an easy path to be the second wide receiver there. And based on the draft capital being a first-round draft pick, I don't want to say it's likely, but it's possible that he is the wide receiver 2 there by week 1. And to get that rookie in round 12, next to Tolbert, next to Devontae Parker, I would be very excited about that. Stefon says, I like Dotson this year, but I have a couple shares of Curtis Samuel as well. Let me pull up how much Curtis Samuel versus Dotson I have, because to be honest, maybe I'm a fish, because I was taking Curtis Samuel last year. I mean, I had a decent amount of Curtis Samuel last year. I definitely had more Curtis Samuel than I did Terry McLaurin. I have Curtis Samuel in 7% of these drafts, which is way more than I thought. I have Dotson in 8%. How much do I have McLaurin? I have McLaurin in 20, a wide receiver this season. I definitely think it's in the range of outcomes. I think you are going to get Treylon Burks steamed up in fantasy as we get closer to week 1. If you're looking at Treylon Burks and his ADP fall since the NFL draft, it's been ridiculous. I wasn't necessarily drafting him back after the NFL draft when he was going about 4 sorry. Here he goes a little early. Scissors takes him. I like that draft pick from Scissors as well. But he was going about 3 rounds earlier than he is now. This is like the perfect price point to take Treylon Burks, because you're getting a wide receiver that does have it in the range of outcomes to be a league-winning option. If you look at his profile as an early declare, as an early breakout, as a player that at the same time was hyper-productive his final season in an SEC collegiate offense, I think it's in the range of outcomes for Treylon Burks to be a top 20 wide receiver. Now, is it likely? Probably not. But I'd say it's unlikely that any rookie wide receiver for you to just pick, say this is the guy, it's unlikely that that player is a top 20 wide receiver. You're taking him for his upside with the range of outcomes, not that median projection. Now, if we get Lawrence making it back to us, we're taking Lawrence. It's going to be the easiest pick ever. As I said, we decided to take Christian Kirk towards the middle of this fantasy draft. Whenever we needed an extra wide receiver, we would get correlation. Not only would we get the stack, but at the same time, we would get it at a value as well, which, of course, I've said this a million times, I am not going to be reaching rounds to get our stacks. We're trying to get them at a value, as I think we can do. Yes, we get Trevor Lawrence here, pick 151. Very excited about that. Matthew says, are you doing a second draft? Yes, sir. We're going to fire up a second draft. I'm going to do so relatively soon as well. I think that once we get to about this point of the draft, let's wait till after our round 15 selection. After our round 15 selection, of course, I'll finish this draft off on my phone as we do our second one. But we'll fire up another draft after this one. I'll create a private draft for everybody to hop in with this live stream. And it's all I got to say is thank y'all guys so much. I've had 260 likes on the stream. 260 likes on the stream. And we're not even done with the first draft. Y'all are crazy. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. Okay, Hartnell says private or Best Ball Mania. Going to be a private draft. I'm sorry, guys. I'm done doing Best Ball Mania drafts on the live stream. I have like 10 left. I'm about to max them out. And when I say I am always drafting on Underdog Fantasy because it is the most fun thing you could ever do, go sign up with promo code FLOCK, I am not just saying that. I have, please, spam the chat right now if you have drafted with me in the public lobby on Underdog, not on the live stream. If you just joined a draft in the public lobby and you see Fantasy Flock there, send a message in the chat, because I can guarantee you pretty much everybody that has an account on Underdog Fantasy has been in a draft with me, because I am drafting all the time. And I want to save those last 10 those last 10 Best Ball Mania drafts that I have, so I can do them off the live stream, so I can do them at the gym and have some fun. Okay. Cheeky Hobson says, did I redeem myself from last night? Let's go through. Let's check out Cheeky Hobson's team. He ended up taking Allen Robinson as a mistake pick in the 3rd round. We'll be excited to go through and look at that. Thomas, Paul, DJ, everybody out in the chat saying that they've been in drafts with us. But I'm not necessarily just saying it like, oh, I drafted a ton. It's that I really want to emphasize the fact that I love drafting. I love doing it. So I have to save those Best Ball Mania entries that I have off the live stream. I can do a private draft with y'all right now. But we're going to take Nico Collins here. I have to be the first person to admit I was not drafting Nico Collins earlier this offseason when his price point was a lot lower than this. People were taking him in the 16th round, and I was sitting here going, oh, dear God, why are people drafting Nico Collins in a low upside passing environment in the 16th, 15th round? What am I missing? I can't take Nico Collins here. Then, sadly, of course, prayers up for John Mechie. John Mechie's out for the season. Nico Collins is guaranteed to be the 2nd wide receiver in Houston, guaranteed to be playing, I don't want to say every single snap, but probably more than 60 to 70% of the snaps for the Houston Texans. And if you're getting that wide receiver, pick 162. It's because John Mechie's out for the season. John Mechie's out for the year. Of course, I'm able to change our stance. I'm able to reevaluate where we are. But let's move this down. I apologize for the lag that we have on the live stream. Please let me know in the chat right now, how bad is the lag that we have on the live stream? Like, is it making this unwatchable? Please let me know in the chat. But after we take Nico Collins, we have some other wide receivers off the board with Marvin Jones, George Pickens. Oh, dear God, I'm an idiot. Oh, I'm so dumb. We took Nico Collins over Julio Jones. Scissors just comes out here and absolutely crushes us. Dear God. How do we do that? How do we pass on Julio Jones there? Yesterday in the live stream, we passed Julio Jones for the experiment to see how far he would fall and to try to give a realistic stance on where you may expect to draft him. I didn't try to do that this live stream. I just tried to draft the best team. And Julio Jones goes the end of the 14th. Great pick. Of course, great pick. Now, we're going to be on the clock at 175. I'm going to take a wide receiver, though. I've drafted a decent amount if he's here in Corey Davis. If not, I think we can go ahead. We can grab, I don't know. Who would we take? See what Cheeky Opson does. We need to check out Cheeky Opson's team after our pick as well. Hardnell says, how much money will the private draft be? We'll just do like a $3 private draft so y'all can get familiar with the setup of the private draft and how to join. We're going to take Corey Davis, and then we're going to move on. Let me set up this draft for everybody. I would finish this one out, and then, actually, no, crap. We got to look at Cheeky Opson's team. I apologize. Let's look at this real quick and show this draft board for anybody just now coming in. We drafted from pick 7. We started Eckler, Aaron Jones, Kyle Pitts, but let's focus in on the team right before us. Cheeky Opson decides to go Stefon Diggs, Deebo Samuel, Josh Allen, Ezekiel Elliott through the first 4 rounds. Can have no complaints here. I think in a casual league, if you see Ezekiel Elliott go at the end of the 3rd, that's probably a little bit too early. But at pick 43, it's about the range where I think you can be fine drafting Ezekiel Elliott. And then we're looking at Gabriel Davis, pick 54. Y'all know I am not a fan of Gabriel Davis when he usually goes in the middle of the 4th round. But hell, if you're going to take Gabriel Davis on a team, it's probably a pretty good idea to take him when he falls 10 picks past his ADP. And you could set up the double stack between Josh Allen, Stefon Diggs, and Gabriel Davis. Gibson, pick 67. I'm personally going to go A.J. Dillon over Antonio Gibson, given the upside that he may have. Lance at 78. This is the pick that I don't truly understand. Trust me, I love Trey Lance, and I know it's a very awkward spot, like I said. I mean, I didn't really know what to do, so we decided to take Christian Kirk. But I think when you go Josh Allen round 3, and you have the double stack with Stefon Diggs and Gabriel Davis, you're already betting so heavily in on this Buffalo Bills offense that if Allen misses any time, if the Buffalo Bills disappoint at all, if they're not a top 3 offense in the NFL, this team's probably not going to win this league. So I feel like Lance wasn't the best pick. I probably would have preferred to go with the wide receiver here. Goddard, 91, not too much to say. Stevenson, great pick at 102. Irv Smith Jr. at 115, a fine pick. Jarvis, I probably prefer to decide to go with Kirk Cousins here in the 11th. If you would have passed on Lance, I think the combination of Christian Kirk and Kirk Cousins would have been much, much better than Trey Lance and Jarvis Landry for this build. Jalen Tolbert, Michael Carter Jr., Gus Edwards, Odell Beckham Jr. I really don't like the Odell pick. I think with how much time Odell Beckham Jr. will miss at the beginning portion of the season, there's just no reason whatsoever to be taking him here, especially in a league where it's just who can score the most points throughout the regular season, and you're not concerned at all about what you're going to have. Ooh, I'm sorry. In weeks 15, 16, and 17. Okay, so do we just... Let's think through this. Tight ends. Yeah, there are no tight ends. Interesting. We'll take Kendrick Bourne. We'll move on. We'll set up another draft. The next draft, we do this every single night. So if you're not signed up for an Underdog Fantasy, fix your life so you can join our next one. I'm sorry, this draft we're setting up tonight, you're going to be too slow. It takes about 5 minutes to set up an Underdog Fantasy account and use promo code FLOCK so you get our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide and everything. And this draft is going to be filled in about 5 seconds, not 5 minutes. You're just going to see a link in the live chat that says, we'll just do a $3 draft to keep it simple for everybody. It will be a $3 draft here link. Click that link and you're in our private 12-person league. This will be drafted on the live stream, so please do not be upset if I make fun of your team. Of course, I'm an idiot. Glop says, Mason, how can I join the same draft as you? Just explain that, my man. I'm going to say join the $3 draft here. I sent it out in the live chat, and we can see how fast this fills up for anybody wanting to join with us next time. Okay. So yeah, looks like this took about 5 seconds to fill. I'm sorry if you were not able to get in here, but it is what it is. It is what it is. You can always join our next one. If you're unable to join this one, I got great news for you. We do this every single night. Every single night we do this. Hardnell says got in. Ashton got in. Let's give a shout out to everybody in this draft right now. We have C. Wagner, who was in the last draft. G6K, I believe we haven't seen that name before. Blazer, Jake, Brose, R. Yates, Mr. Right Now, Game Day Swami, Ash, and Ryhill and Cheza. Okay, so thank you all. I feel like looking forward to it. Assuming we are going to go ahead, we're going to take Cooper Kupp at pick 3. But this draft starts in about 6 seconds. Let's refresh this to make sure we are not lagging here, because I think we are, but it is what it is. Can't really do much about it. Okay, we're on the clock in our other draft. Let me pull that one up to make sure we have who we want. Okay, so here, looks like we're going to go ahead. We're going to get Christian McCaffrey. You know what? Let's think through this real quick. No, we got it. Because the people I'm drafting with and the fact that I believe y'all are going to push up. No, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't talk myself into going with Cooper Kupp over Christian McCaffrey. I was earlier in the offseason, but once you have Baker Mayfield coming over, I think the floor in this offense is going to be significantly higher than the floor you had with Sam Darnold last year. I mean, Sam Darnold last year was the worst quarterback in the NFL in adjusted yards per pass attempt. Like 5.2. Baker Mayfield, historically speaking, has been around 7. So I think that you do have the upgraded offensive environment. We're going to have to go ahead. We're going to have to take CMC at pick 3. 7 on the clock. Dalvin Cook goes at 6. Interesting to see Dalvin go ahead of Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler. I decided to take Austin Eckler over Dalvin Cook in the last draft. You have Stefon Diggs at 7. Stefon Diggs, one of my most drafted wide receivers in fantasy this year, just because I am preferring the builds where we go wide receiver round 1 more times than not over those running backs. Tindy says, I can't sign up for Underdog because I'm under 18. Can I still get the draft guide? Yeah, you can still get the draft guide. The draft guide is available on flockfantasy.com. You should be able to find the link in the chat as well as the description of the video. But if you are not on Underdog Fantasy, it'll be cheaper, easier, and at the same time, a lot more fun for you to go just draft on Underdog Fantasy, make a $10 deposit with promo code FLOCK to get the draft guide that way. Blue Guitar Beat says, why are you so high on Stefon Diggs this year? Shouldn't you be concerned with Gabriel Davis having a larger role? Not at all. No. If we go through and look at the combination of targets that you have with Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley leaving this offense, Gabriel Davis is not taking all that up. Now, I know when people are drafting him in the middle of the 4th round, they think he's going to, but there's no way in hell it happens. You have 112 targets leaving from Cole Beasley, 72 leaving from Emmanuel Sanders. It's 180 targets out of this offense. Who the hell cares if Gabriel Davis takes a step up? You think Gabriel Davis is going to be adding 180 targets? You think Gabriel Davis is going to be at 240 targets this upcoming season? No. No. I think that is going to be divided between Stefon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, and Jamison Crowder. I think Crowder probably takes 60, 70 of those targets. You have an additional 60 targets going over to Gabriel Davis, getting him to about 120. And maybe Stefon Diggs being able to pick up 10 to 20 targets in one of the most productive offenses in the NFL. And obviously Diggs is an elite talent himself. But Najee Harris making it all the way to pick 15. Crazy. I personally cannot be taking Mike Evans over Najee Harris. Not with Julio Jones signing. I don't think you can be taking CeeDee Lamb either. Great value on Najee Harris at pick 15 there. You have to be excited about that. Bryce says, does this deal only last for July on Underdog and the draft guide? No, it'll last until the beginning part of the season. It'll last until NFL kickoff for you to use promo code FLOCK and get our draft guide with Underdog Fantasy, but legitimately no reason to wait. Unless you do not have $10 to your name, no reason to wait. Anthony says, join Underdog, didn't get an email or a link for the free draft guide. My man, check your spam. When you join Underdog Fantasy, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar to 100 with promo code FLOCK, and that will happen immediately. But The draft guide will take about an hour to show up to your email, and sometimes it will go to your spam. So you have no idea how many emails, how many DMs I've gotten that say, Mason, I used promo code FLOCK and didn't get your draft guide. And then a follow-up email literally an hour later going, oh, never mind, ignore that message. Just please check your spam. It goes there 100%. Check your spam. It will get emailed to you 100% of the time for the email that you signed up for Underdog with. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take T. Higgins. This is why I was debating taking Cooper Kupp in round 1, because the running backs that you have available to you at the 2-3 turn are just so much more appealing than the wide receivers in this range. Like, let me know what combination of players you prefer. Are you going to prefer the combination of Christian McCaffrey and T. Higgins, or Cooper Kupp and Javonte Williams, or Cooper Kupp and Nick Chubb, or Cooper Kupp and Leonard Fournette, or Cooper Kupp and one of those running backs? Maybe we should just go RB, but still, it's hard to do that with a wide receiver value that's going to be available a little bit later on. Please let me know your thoughts in the chat, because it's one of the most difficult decisions to make this season. I've been taking Taylor at 1 every single time because I feel like it's tough to pass on Taylor. But Insane is Epic says CMC Higgins. Chris says CMC Higgins. Cameron says Kupp and Leonard Fournette. Keenan Allen goes pick 24. Tiaranga says, does DK Metcalf slide up if he goes to the 49ers? My man, that would never happen. Why would the Seattle Seahawks ever trade a 25-year-old wide receiver in his prime to one of their rivals in the same division? There's no way in hell that the 49ers end up walking away with DK Metcalf. Now, I know I've been on record saying Javonte Williams is an overdrafted running back when he was going at pick 21. But if we're going to get Javonte Williams at pick 27, I'm taking Javonte Williams at pick 27. I can be realistic, and I could say, while yes, he should be playing in a committee with Melvin Gordon this upcoming season, if something were to occur to Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams does still have one of the highest upsides in fantasy football. I mean, if we remember where Javonte Williams was being drafted before Melvin Gordon signed, Javonte Williams was going at the end of round 1. People were taking Javonte Williams over Najee Harris. So to get this discount on Javonte makes a lot of sense. Of course, Melvin Gordon is a very old running back that potentially will miss some time. I've definitely drafted more Melvin Gordon in these fantasy drafts than I've taken Javonte Williams, but I think it is a very fair price point for Javonte. Okay, DJ Moore goes pick 33, Mike Williams 32. And let me just give a shout out to all of y'all. We are about to pass coming out and hanging out with me every single night. I promise you guys, I appreciate y'all so much. So much. Okay. So now, looks like we have a little bit of a lag. Let's refresh this. Paul says Mixon or Najee Harris. Come on. I have to go with Najee Harris over Joe Mixon. I hate to do it. I hate to do it. Mixon is going to be one of my most drafted running backs this season. But in most drafts, Mixon's the guy falling to pick 15, and Najee Harris is going to pick 10. Saram coming out, long time no see, my man. Thank you. Says, how are you doing, Mason? I have the 111. Who and what strategy would you suggest going with in pick 1 and 2? Okay, so Saram, a couple different factors are going to matter here, in my opinion. It's going to really matter with your starting lineup requirements. If you only need to start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex spot, and you can only start up to a total of 3 wide receivers, we're not taking a receiver. We're going to decide to go Kelsey round 1, and then probably either Mixon, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, whoever you like at the running back position in round 2. And if Kelsey's not available to you at the end of round 1, which he should be, then running back. However, the more flex spots you add, assuming it's a PPR format, the more starting wide receiver slots you will add as well. Then all of a sudden, those wide receivers such as Davante Adams and CeeDee Lamb become a lot more appealing. So please let me know your starting lineup requirements in the chat right now, and I could give you a better assessment on exactly how I would take that turn. But I'm assuming you're playing in a little bit more of a shallow format where I would really prioritize grabbing that elite level tight end with Kelsey. Mr. Hackman says, I respect the love for Najee Harris, but I see the Cincinnati Bengals having the better offensive line. I vote Mixon over Najee. My man, I'm all about Joe Mixon. I was leading the Joe Mixon. I was the only guy in the Joe Mixon fan club last year. I'm right back leading that fan club this offseason as well. Don't make it sound like I'm not a fan of Mixon. I agree with your points. Saram says, sorry, it's a 12-team PPR format with 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex. Yeah, like I said, I think Kelsey and then your choice on running back. If Kelsey somehow doesn't make it there, I think you go RB. If you only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, that's going to be a format where you can feel free to punt the wide receiver position. Like, Underdog's going to be different than that format because on Underdog you start an additional wide receiver, so you have to start 3 receivers, and also, of course, it being best ball does have a slight adjustment for that as well. Nick says, are you doing a 24-hour draft day party? Potentially. You know what? I'm thinking on this real quick. We're going to reach on Kittle. If we were to get, let's call it 100,000 subscribers before the season starts, which is, you know what? Let's not do 100,000 subscribers. And guys, we're getting like, the last 48 hours, we've had like 70,000 views. This is not a crazy ask. If we get 90,000 subs before the season starts, I will do a 24-hour draft day party. I will stream for 24 hours. I don't know how my voice is going to make it. I don't know how it's going to be possible. But we'll stream for 24 hours. I'll go crazy on the live stream. Drafting fantasy football drafts before the season starts. Now we have Justin Herbert, Allen Robinson off the board. The reason I go Kittle over Herbert is I have Herbert, Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson all in the same tier this year, and we can essentially guarantee ourselves one of these quarterbacks at pick 51 whenever we have all 3 of them available. So we decided to take Kittle, and then we were just going to take whatever quarterback makes it back. This time it's going to be Patrick Mahomes at pick 51. So go ahead. Let's take Patrick Mahomes. As I've said, at this point, my most drafted quarterback in fantasy. And when we're getting Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback 4 off the board, if we're getting Patrick Mahomes in a lot of these drafts in the middle of the 5th round, I am not going to be surprised when Patrick Mahomes is my most drafted player overall, which sounds like probably the most fishy thing you could ever do. Like, if you come out and say Patrick Mahomes is my most drafted player, it sounds like you're just the fish in the room and you have no idea what you're doing, which is probably true when it comes to me. Bryce says, where can I find the link for the guide and to sign up on Underdog Fantasy? My man, the link that is sent out every about 5 minutes, the link that says join our next draft here, that's a link to Underdog Fantasy. Click that, use promo code FLOCK. You'll be able to get in our next draft, or at least one of our next drafts. We do them every single night. And at the same time, you will get that 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide emailed to you. And if you're having a hard time finding the email, please, just make sure you check your spam. Now we have Brandon Cooks, pick 57, Kyler Murray, pick 56, Jalen Hurts, 54. Once we take Mahomes, of course, we're hoping that we get more quarterbacks off the board. It's not great for us to see these wide receivers flying off, considering the fact that we currently only have T. Higgins, and that's why we decided to pass on running back in the 2nd round. I know myself. I know that 9 times out of 10, we're going to be grabbing an elite tight end. We're going to be grabbing an elite quarterback at the 4 or 5 turn. Usually it's Waller Mahomes, but even when it's Kittle Mahomes, I'm fine with it. So we have to take that wide receiver in round 2, unless we had a crazy value. Like if we had Saquon Barkley falling to us, yeah, we're going to take Saquon Barkley there. Adam says, at this point, you have so much Mahomes. Yeah, let me go ahead. Let me pull up my exposures and see how much Patrick Mahomes I have. It's just been steadily increasing as he's been falling more and more in ADP, because Mahomes was someone I was going at the end of the 3rd round when these contests first opened. But if I go ahead and pull up my completed drafts, my phone's bugging out real quick. But I believe Patrick Mahomes is now going to be a top 5 player in terms of my ownership percentages. Okay. It's official. I don't know if it's updated with this one. But Patrick Mahomes is now my number 1 player drafted on Underdog Fantasy. The majority of that has been over the past few weeks when we're getting him in the 5th round. Michael Thomas is my number 2 most drafted player on Underdog Fantasy, and I feel very comfortable with that, knowing that we are going to have Michael Thomas sliding up fantasy drafts relatively soon. Chef Angelo coming out. Thank you, my man. Appreciate you out here. Says, hey, would you ever consider streaming some ESPN drafts just to see how they go? LOL. And did you move to Alaska or what's going on? We went and we're in Alaska over the past week. Yeah, we were still doing video drafts every single night. We still, at the same time, had videos going out every single day, but that's just because I'm a psycho and I wanted to make sure I was getting these drafts out for y'all. So no, I am in Austin, Texas still. And in terms of streaming like ESPN drafts, the issue with streaming ESPN mock drafts is I don't see how they're that helpful. Like, it's not going to be helpful for me to hop in a random lobby where people leave the draft halfway through and you don't get any useful information from it. These underdog drafts are so much better practice, because you don't have people leaving halfway through. It's a real money draft. Even if it's only a $3 draft, there's a pot attached to it. There's $36 in this pot. So you don't have people leaving and then auto drafting the rest of their team. This ADP is very sharp as well. So to be honest, it wouldn't be fun for me. And at the same time, I think it would be a lot less helpful for y'all. So no, we are going to stick it with these underdog drafts. I think it's the best place to draft, and we're going to continue drafting here. Okay, so let's move this down. But thank you, of course, for supporting the channel, my man. And I apologize for going on that little rant. Then we can go ahead, grab a wide receiver, spam the chat. You know what? I'm not even going to give you the option. We're going to take Adam Thielen over Amari Cooper here. I think you could make the argument that you want to be taking Amari Cooper in a league where you have to prioritize weeks 15, 16, and 17 production, going, okay, well, it's possible that you have Deshaun Watson back in Cleveland by the time we get to that time for your fantasy football playoff stretch. But in this league, it's just who can score the most points throughout the course of the regular season. So in that case, we are going to go ahead. We are going to take Adam Thielen so we don't have to deal with a Jacoby Brissett at the beginning of the year. Okay. Hot Mike says, do you think these rankings on Underdog are useful for home drafts? 100% they are useful. Now, no, you cannot just copy and paste them over for your home leagues. You will fail that way. You can definitely copy and paste like quarterback rankings, running back rankings, wide receiver rankings, tight end rankings, and I would say you would probably crush your league mates if we were just looking at it through that lens. But when it comes to overall, we need to understand some differences between your home league and Underdog Fantasy. Because it's best ball and you don't have access to the waiver wire, and at the same time, you are going to have just random players spiking into your starting lineups. What we need to do is we need to overall slide wide receivers down ever so slightly. And with those secondary quarterbacks, scratch them off the board. With those tight ends at the very end of drafts, scratch them off the board, knowing that you could just hit waivers for those guys. So overall, know that you're not drafting a second quarterback. You're not drafting a second tight end. But from a positional standpoint, if you're playing with a bunch of casual people who aren't doing 400 drafts or really hopping in some high stakes drafts and dedicating their entire life for it, if you were to just copy and paste Underdog positional rankings over in and use them as your rankings, go, okay, I need a running back here. Who's being drafted highest on Underdog? Take that player, same thing, a wide receiver. You probably would crush your league mates if I'm going to be completely honest. Assuming y'all are drafting on like a casual format like ESPN or Yahoo. Now, Kent says, who wins the trade? Dynasty League, Superflex, full PPR. Russell Wilson and Dalvin Cook for Derek Carr and Najee Harris. Okay, so I'd say with Dalvin and Harris, they're going to be in the same tier for me. I think that they are very similar players. Russell Wilson, I'm going to prefer a few tiers ahead of Derek Carr if we're looking at what we should assume his situation is like this upcoming year compared to what we've had over the past 5 years with Seattle. I mean, yeah, the wide receivers are very good, especially the depth of the wide receiver position, but specifically with the coaching staff, I think that you can end up with the Seattle Seahawks looking like a prehistoric offense compared to what we may have in Denver this year. If they decide to skew to be much more pass happy in game neutral environments, where Russell Wilson has to be a tier or two ahead of Derek Carr for me. So I will prefer Wilson and Dalvin Cook. And Stud coming out with a donation. Thank you, my man. It says 3-keeper redraft format. Have Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Kyle Pitts. Is it worth trading David Montgomery, my second, third, and fourth for another mid first round pick and lock in a second running back one? Love the channel. No, thank you, my man. I'd say David Montgomery obviously is trash for you. You're not keeping him. He's worth nothing. So would you trade your second and third, second, third, and fourth round picks for a first? No, that's too much. Obviously, David Montgomery is worth absolutely nothing. I think it's a great idea to try to attach, say, David Montgomery in your fourth round pick to move up and get a third, because you can't keep David Montgomery. You're keeping Chase, Jefferson, and Pitts, but you can't trade your second. Let's refresh this Underdog stream. Allen Lazard off the board. Allen Lazard, not someone I'm drafting at all. Now, I will say, maybe it ends up biting us in the butt with the Christian Watson injury if Allen Lazard does come out here and completely smash with Sammy Watkins on the PUP, with Christian Watson obviously injured as well. But it's a tough spot to be in. Now, Damian Harris is a running back that y'all know we have never advocated drafting. And now he is looking like he's running with the backups behind Ramondre Stevenson. It's just day one of camp. It's not everything. But Damian Harris was a player being overdrafted at pick 90 beforehand and definitely being way overdrafted now. I mean, if you're looking at my rankings with Damian Harris, let me pull this up to figure out exactly where I had him, as I know I had these other running backs higher. Damian Harris. Oh, crap. I need to look up our draft guide, not Damian Harris. Look up our draft guide, then look up Damian Harris. Okay, here's our draft guide. Damian Harris. I had Damian Harris as the running back 32. And this is before Ramondre Stevenson's running ahead of him. We have him right before James Cook, Melvin Gordon, Devin Singletary. I think you have to easily move Singletary ahead of him now. But now at this point, I think we continue to hammer in some of these wide receivers. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is going to be the easiest pick ever when we have Patrick Mahomes on this team. We're going to get that correlation. We're going to get it at a value. We need wide receiver help. We're getting him behind his ADP. Yeah, let's take Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Let's not even think about it, and let's see what falls to us with our next pick. If we get Sky Moore and we get the double stack with Patrick Mahomes, not having to reach on ADP, I'm all about that. All about that. Bryce Long says, deposit now. It doesn't say use a code, though. Okay, my man, just make sure you go through the link in the description. If you go through the link in the description, it should automatically apply promo code FLOCK with you, or the link in the live chat. And I'll say, if you can double check that, definitely double check it. But if you do have an issue, you could always go through the link in the description. And then if you do not get that draft guide sent to you within about 2 hours of your email, and after you check the spam, then you can reach out to me. Just email me, DM me, or contact Underdog Fantasy, and then we'll figure out what's going on. And they can always apply that code directly after. Ramondre Stevenson now being drafted before Damian Harris. You'll love to see it. You'll love to see it. I'm probably not going to be drafting much of Ramondre Stevenson at this price point. We were drafting him about a month or two ago before his ADP got steamed up a little bit. I still am overweight on Ramondre Stevenson. I think I'm about 9 or 10% because of how much we were drafting previously. I'm not going to be drafting much of Ramondre Stevenson or Damian Harris, to be completely honest. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Sky Moore here. I think it's going to be a very easy selection when we have Patrick Mahomes. We need another wide receiver. Sky Moore is a wide receiver that checks every single box. Now, yes, he's coming out of a small school, but he broke out as a freshman. On top of him breaking out as a freshman, he declares early. He was dominant his final season there. It's hard to ask for much more than that. Steven says, signed up with promo code FLOCK last night, not seeing it in my email. Okay, my man, please send me a message. We'll figure it out. Please send me a message and include when you signed up in the email address you signed up for. You signed up with. Because I can see everything on my end as well. So if it's not signed up, then we can reach out to Underdog, figure out what's going on. If I can just see that your email address did sign up with promo code FLOCK, then I'll be able to go ahead and send that to you ASAP. Okay. So after we take Sky Moore, we have Robert Woods, Christian Watson going off the board at 102. I like it. I like taking Christian Watson in my $500 draft. We decided to take him, I believe, at pick 117. We had some, in my opinion, very, very strong value falling to us with Christian Watson. But it is what it is. His ADP is going to slide ever so slightly with the injury, which I don't love because I've drafted a lot of him. Now, Devin Singletary off the board. Damian Harris does go off the board at pick 103. Please spam the chat right now. Just spam the chat over and over and over again. Who are you drafting between Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris at this point? I'm not saying at their ADP. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying you are on the clock and you go, okay, there are two running backs I'm looking at that are appealing. Their names are Damien Harris and Ramadre Stevenson. Nothing in between. And you have to pick one of those guys. Who are you taking? Okay. So we have Harris, Ramadre. Looks like most people are still taking Damien Harris. Stevenson. Maybe it's a 50-50. I don't know. I'm excited to see how the ADP will shake up after the reports that Stevenson was running with the ones and Harris was running with the twos. Okay, so Tyler Boyd goes to pick 107. Garrett Wilson, 108. Looks like we have a lot of wide receivers off the board. So thank God we decided to double tap the Kansas City Chiefs guys a little earlier on. Now we have Conway Police Department. Thank you for coming out. God, we got an entire police department watching the live stream right now. This is Mason Big Money League 10-team PPR. I got Allen, Waddle, Hollywood Brown, Taylor, Jacobs, Kelsey, and Cooper. What are your thoughts? Thanks, my man. No, thank you for supporting the channel. I'll say in a 10-team format, I think it's going to be significantly more important to find those elite edges, specifically at quarterback as well as tight end, because wide receiver is going to be a lot more replaceable on the waiver wire, as well as a running back. You'll be able to find Elijah Mitchell easily. You'll be able to find James Robinson easily. You'll be able to find spot starts with guys like Keel Herbert last year. So I really like the idea of grabbing elite level tight ends and elite level quarterbacks in a 10-team format. You have Josh Allen, you have Travis Kelce. I think check and check. Somehow you have Jonathan Taylor on the same team as Travis Kelce. I think that your wide receiver room's a little bit weak. I've been drafting the hell out of Jalen Waddle, one of my most drafted wide receivers, but in a 10-team format to have him as your wide receiver one, that's not ideal. But like I said, you have to pick and choose your spots to sacrifice. And if we're going to sacrifice some wide receiver depth, if we're going to sacrifice some top-end wide receiver talent, the place to do it is in a 10-team league where we were able to go out there and get that elite level quarterback as well as elite level tight end. So love that. Okay, so Rachaad White goes pick 116. Kirk Cousins would be in play for us here. We did decide to take Adam Thielen. Now, the thing is, if we want to take Kirk Cousins, we have to do it now because we have the Justin Jefferson team about to be on the clock right after we make this pick. So we can assume that they go Kirk Cousins. But you know what? When we take Patrick Mahomes, it's not the end of the world for us to not get Cousins stacked up with Adam Thielen. Let's go ahead. Let's just take Cordarrelle Patterson. I think Patterson, pick 118, the end of the 10th round, great value. Like, we've said this so many times before, but I really like looking at a better wide receiver than what Russell Gage was last season. So you would assume that targets are going to be taken away from Cordarrelle Patterson. You have Tyler Algier coming over. Carries may be taken away as well. But if we look at the fact that Russell Gage, Mike Davis, Hayden Hurst, Wayne Gallman, Tajay Sharp, Calvin Ridley are all gone from this offense and not playing this season, that opens up 272 targets and 166 carries from last year. Cordarrelle Patterson was the running back 15 on a points per game basis. We're drafting him as a low-end running back 4 here. It's a completely fair price point. Okay. Now at this point, do we go ahead and I think we take a wide receiver. If we look at some of these other wide receivers that are going to be available to us, like guys like later on, Jamison Williams, we just can't take because, as I said, this is a league where we're trying to score the most points throughout the course of the entire season, not necessarily just in a playoff environment in weeks 15, 16, and 17 based on this league setup. So if we're trying to score the most points from week 1, I think Kenny Golladay is going to be the best selection, knowing that we don't want to take Jamison Williams. We don't want to take one of those rookies in the next round. Gardner Minshew coming out says, hey, Mason, what do you think about Travis Etienne? I think with Travis Etienne, he's the new age DeAndre Swift. He's the new age Aaron Jones. He's the new age Alvin Kamara. We've been talking about this for the past 2 years, specifically with DeAndre Swift and Travis Etienne. Guys that are not going to see every touch out of their backfield, but every single high-value touch out of their backfield. They're going to get every single target. They're going to get every single touch in the red zone, and that's exactly what you need. I don't care if they lose carries between the 20-yard lines. Now, with the report that James Robinson is not going to be on the PUP, that Robinson should be good to go, I will admit it is concerning for the projection we have with the red zone role for Travis Etienne. It's a lot harder to guarantee that he is going to be that goal line running back compared to what we thought just a few weeks ago. So with Etienne, I do think that he is no longer a player you can draft at the end of the third, as I was advocating for, just a couple weeks back when we thought James Robinson was going to miss the beginning portion of the season with the torn Achilles. I do think that he has to fall down to being right in that same tier with Ezekiel Elliott, Breece Hall, Cam Akers. But very exciting in a PPR format, non-PPR, you can just avoid. He's coming out. Thank you, my man. Says 10-team keeper league. Having a hard time picking my keeper. Either Pitts in the 6th or T. Higgins in the 7th. Please help. I'd say 10-team league. You're going to go Kyle Pitts easily. As I just got done talking about previously, 10-team format. The wide receiver position is going to be so much more replaceable than what you'd find in a 12-team league. And having that elite level tight end is going to be one of the very few things that can differentiate yourself from the rest of the field, where everybody should have stacked teams because it's a 10-team format. So I'm always about trying to get that elite level guy in the shallower league overall. Kyle Pitts is someone very exciting. We drafted him in the 3rd round in the draft right before this. Yes, we take T. Higgins at the end of the 2nd here, but I would break it down as if you're playing in a 12-team format where you can start 4 or more wide receivers, T. Higgins. If you're playing in a league where you can't start that many receivers, we're going to go Kyle Pitts. Okay, so Jalen Tolbert goes pick 134. Let's see. We have some quarterbacks falling, some tight ends falling. Interesting that those teams on the turn didn't go with the combination of like Justin Fields and Cole Kmet. Oh, sorry. Or the combination of Tua Tagovailoa and Mike Gesicki. Obviously, it's very hard for the teams in the middle of the draft to decide to do that now, because you take Justin Fields, you're not going to get Cole Kmet making it back to you on the way back around. You take Tua Tagovailoa, you're not going to get Mike Gesicki making it to you on the way back around. But it's just interesting that those teams that had the opportunity to do it on the turn decided not to. Finn says, would you ever consider talking about auction formats? Yeah, we talk auction a lot more for our Dynasty Fantasy Football channel because I think it's more exciting from a Dynasty Fantasy Football context. The issue with talking about auction formats, and I literally had this question on our locals page earlier today, is it matters so much the small details of the league you're playing in. If you start a total of 8 players versus 10 players, if you have 5 bench spots versus 10 bench spots, your actual strategy when you approach that auction. So it's really hard for me to make a generalized video, generalized advice, when you really just need to understand how to cater your auction strategy for the actual specific, unique league that you're playing in. If everybody played in the same auction league, trust me, I would love to talk about it. But it's very hard for me to give auction advice when it may be valuable for some people, and then if people are following it in another auction draft with slightly different settings, it's not going to be valuable at all. Now, Justin Fields, super easy pick here at the 12-13 turn. A quarterback that does have rushing upside. Yes, he's in a very bad situation. You have bottom 5 offensive line according to PFF. His wide receiver 2 is a 25-year-old rookie. His wide receiver 2, in Velus Jones Jr., is almost older, if not older, than Juju Smith-Schuster. That's the situation you're in. Like, Justin Fields is in a very bad spot, but at the same time, he does have the upside to get to 40, 50 rushing yards in a game. And if that can happen, it doesn't matter how bad his overall passing environment is. Look at what Jalen Hurts did last year. Jalen Hurts had like 5 games with more than 200 passing yards, yet he was the quarterback 6 on a points per game basis. Okay. Now after we take Fields, okay, good. We can get a wide receiver that we like here. I'm definitely going to prefer Jamison Crowder over KJ Osborne, but I'd imagine the team right before us decides to go KJ Osborne because I think they took Kirk Cousins. They go Van Jefferson. Oh, dear God. If you have Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, you better be going KJ Osborne with this pick, but they don't. So we're going to go ahead. We are going to get Jamison Crowder. I've drafted way more Jamison Crowder than I've drafted Gabriel Davis this season. Now, no, I do not think that Jamison Crowder is going to outscore Gabriel Davis. My issue is, in the majority of these drafts, I mean, hell, Gabriel Davis has an ADP of about 42. And we're getting Jamison Crowder over 100 picks later. I think you have Gabriel Davis stepping into the Emmanuel Sanders role. I think you have Jamison Crowder stepping into the Cole Beasley role. Cole Beasley had significantly more targets last year, but I will say you should expect Gabriel Davis to be much more efficient with the work that he does get. Let me know what y'all think. I really like Crowder. Now, of course, it's going to be more of a deeper league play. Like if you play in a 10-team league, starts 2 wide receivers in a flex, there's no reason for you to ever roster Jamison Crowder. You're going to have a million wide receivers on the waiver wire like that. But in these very deep underdog drafts where we have to go and worry about our wide receiver 6, worry about our wide receiver 7, play ahead of Crowder. We've had some of those reports coming out of camp. I personally don't buy it. I know that Isaiah McKenzie got a nice contract, but if we look at the production you had from Jamison Crowder and the pedigree that we had from Crowder earlier on in his NFL career, I do believe that Jamison Crowder is a much more talented slot wide receiver compared to what we have with Isaiah McKenzie. And please don't use the words slot wide receivers as a slot wide receiver as an insult. Like you want to be targeting slot wide receivers. You want to be targeting those guys that are going to just draw a crap ton of targets underneath. Now, Robert Tonyan goes pick 155. Okay. Julio Jones, 151. This is where Julio should go, in my opinion. I think Julio should go mid-round 13. I think if you wanted to take Julio Jones over Jamison Crowder, you easily can. If you want to take Julio Jones over Van Jefferson, you easily can. I actually ended up with a pretty I would love to show you all this team. Let me at least bring it up. I drafted this Best Ball Mania team earlier today at the gym. That was just absolutely beautiful. Okay. Yeah, this is it. We ended up getting Mike Evans falling to us on a Cooper Kupp team at pick 21. Actually, no, this isn't it. Where's the Brady and Mahomes team? Okay, where are you? Where are you hiding? Okay, this was the team. We had Leonard Fournette falling to us. I'm all over the place. Okay. I don't know. Can't find the team. It was a beautiful one. You're going to have to bully me. We took Tom Brady, and then we ended up getting Julio Jones about pick 151, which I was very excited about. I think if you have Brady, you can, of course, easily decide to take Julio over Crowder, over Jefferson, over Robbie, right in line with maybe Jahan Dotson. Without Brady, it's a little bit more questionable. I think he does belong here. Okay, Kenneth Gainwell goes 162. We definitely need another tight end. I would say with this team in particular, I'm probably going to go ahead. I'm probably going to draft 3 of them, even though we took George Kittle. We just waited so long on our next best guy. We only have to draft 2 quarterbacks. We have the combination of Patrick Mahomes, Justin Fields. Wide receiver, we are pretty weak on, but I think we can go ahead, take Noah Fant here. Looking at C. Wagner as a team that only has Dalton Schultz, I'd imagine that they end up grabbing another tight end, and I really don't want to be put in a situation where we have to take Evan Ingram. It'd be pretty damn gross. You know what? That was actually a bad pick. Oh, dear God, Mason, you are a fool. You are a clown. These teams probably aren't going to go quarterback. They have Lamar. Yeah, these teams aren't going to go quarterback. I made a mistake. We made a mistake, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully it doesn't cost us too much. Hayes Gaming says, Mason, how do I get you to send me a flock hat to wear on my draft day? My man, you head over to flockfantasy.com and you get yourself a flock hat. You can find the link in the description of the video. Flockfantasy.com. Flockfantasy.com. There are flock hats there. James Robinson goes pick 168. That was the mistake that we made. We should have taken James Robinson ahead of Noah Fant. That should have been an easy pick for us. It is what it is. We made the mistake. We won't make it again. We'll move on. We will learn from it. Hayden Hurst goes 169. So we did expect that team to take tight end. But at the same time, looking at the fact that that team easily needed running back. They go Tannehill. We're going to take Corey Davis. And from here, we're going to draft one more running back, one more tight end, and one more wide receiver. So now that we have our roster construction set, probably going to end the live stream here and fire up another 2-draft live stream for everybody tomorrow night. Of course, thank you all so much for being a part of the flock, supporting the channel. We had almost 500 likes on this live stream, which is absolutely absurd. I appreciate all of y'all. I hope you have a great day. I hope we get to see you with the live stream tomorrow night. Of course, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy with the link in the chat or the link in the description if you want to get in one of these drafts with us one night on Underdog Fantasy, if you want to have some fun. Also, if you want to get in a free fantasy football group chat, you don't need an email address. You don't need a credit card. You don't need anything. I will send out the link to our Discord chat if you want to join. If not, no harm, no foul. It's just a free fantasy football group chat if you want to fire up some questions, talk with some people. We're spamming that message in the chat. But thank you again. I appreciate all of y'all. Of course, I'll be back with another stream tomorrow night. And yeah, have a great one.